Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the Champions Report on the WBA, the World Boxing Association. And we are going to cover all divisions and title belts from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. Before we get started with that, guys, I want to say if you could show me some love and smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support I can get. As I try to build my channel up and everything, I've been getting a lot more hits lately, and I really appreciate it, guys. So you could show me that love. I really do appreciate everything you guys can do, guys. So anyway, let's jump into the WBA now, World Boxing Association. For the first time in a while, I am including the regular belts on the Champions Report for the WBA, and the reason being is the WBA really has consolidated most of their title belts, and from 122 to heavyweight, I believe there's only 5 more regular champions still to go, and I think we are in the process of consolidating a couple more of those at the very least by maybe halfway through the year. So we'll run through each division. If there's a regular belt there, we'll talk about it. But we're going to start with 122 pounds. The champion there is the undefeated, reigning and unified champ, Marajan Akhmadaliyev, or MJ. So MJ enters this fight. MJ is set to return on Saturday, April 8th on a DAZN undercard, where he's going to make a mandatory defense, against IBF mandatory challenger Marlon Tapalis of the Philippines. This should be an interesting one taking place there. It's going to take place before the next Champions Report. So my prediction is that MJ is going to outwork and dominate Tapalis in what should be an entertaining fight, maybe through the first 4, 5, 6 rounds. And then I think MJ is going to take over and stop Marlon Tapalis in the middle to later rounds, as I believe he will retain his 2 world titles, and hopefully he's pushing towards an undisputed title clash with the winner of Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue, which if it's Inoue, I think the chances of that fight happening in the second half of the year are very strong. So we'll see. 126 pounds featherweight. The champion there is now Mauricio Lara. Mauricio Lara just captured the belt in February when he scored a spectacular 7th round TKO over Lee Wood, who was beating him on the scorecards pretty convincingly heading into the 7th round. But Mauricio Lara, his just blitzing power just wasn't gonna be denied, and he caught Lee Wood with a wicked left hook in the 7th round that put him flat on his back. He got up, but Ben Davidson made a great call, saving his fighter, and Mauricio Lara is now the world champion. Now, going forward, the rumor is that Mauricio Lara could potentially be fighting Lee Wood in a rematch, as Lee Wood has a rematch clause in the contract because it was an optional defense for Lee Wood, so he's allowed to ask for a rematch clause. He did, and he can exercise that. But most people feel that it's going to be Mauricio Lara against Josh Warrington 3 first, and then the winner will fight Lee Wood either in the second half of the year or early in 2024. And either one is good. It's big for Lara. Lara has a lot to look forward to in his first title defense, and more if he is successful. Hopefully we have a little bit more of a clear direction on who he's going to fight by the next Champions Report. 130 super featherweight. The WBA champion there is Hector Luis Garcia. We really don't know what's going to happen next for Garcia. He returned at the beginning of January and moved up to 135 to challenge Gervonta Tank Davis for the regular belt. We'll get to that in a minute. He came up short, losing there, but he's still champion at 130 here. So I firmly believe he's gonna be fighting at 130 pounds moving forward, especially coming off of a loss at 135. But the question is, who's he gonna fight? Well, he's, his number one contender, it hasn't been ordered for him to make a mandatory defense against Lamont Roach Jr. yet. And then there's other options like, you know, Shaqy Foster just worked with the PBC. He just captured the WBC title. And then there's also the potential option of Gary Russell Jr. moving up in weight. So we're going to see what goes on and what gets decided for Hector Luis Garcia moving forward. 135 lightweight. The champions there now. We have the undefeated reigning super champ, and he's the undisputed champion at 135. That's Devin Haney. And then we have the undefeated reigning regular champ, which is Gervonta Tank Davis. We have news on both of them. Devin Haney looks like him and Vasily Lomachenko is going to happen. That's they pretty much have agreed to everything except for the site of the fight. It has not been finalized yet. But it's supposed to be taking place on Saturday, May 20th on ESPN for the undisputed title. You know, the question is whether it's going to take place in potentially the Middle East or in the United States. So haven't heard about that one yet, but hopefully we're going to hear something very, very soon. I believe we will, and I believe that fight will be finalized for May, and I'll give my prediction on it on the next Champions Report. Now, the regular title held by undefeated Gervonta Tank Davis. Well, he defended that belt in early January on Showtime pay-per-view when he stopped previously undefeated 130-pound champion Hector Luis Garcia. Then, just recently, the Super Showdown with Ryan Garcia has been signed on, and these two are good to go at a catch weight of 136 pounds. So the regular belt is not going to be on the line in Davis's next fight. The big question is based on the result, what's he going to do? Now, if Tank beats Ryan in April, then, you know, I think there's a very good chance Tank goes after the winner of Haney and Lomachenko for the undisputed belt. I think the WBA would order it. I think that'd be a super fight, and I think it'd be a fight that could be made. But if Tank were to lose to Ryan at 136, he's still going to be regular champ. Is he going to want to defend that belt or be ordered and fight the winner of Haney and Lomachenko? I think that takes a lot of steam out of a potential fight there, and I don't see that happening. But the truth is I don't even know if Tank remains the regular champ. He might say fuck it and just give up that belt and take a little time away from the ring if he comes up short. Now, I personally believe he's probably going to come up short, but I really do think it's a fight that could go either way. So we'll see. We'll see. A lot's going to be said by the next Champions Report on what Tank is going to do with that regular belt. 140, junior welterweight. The undefeated and reigning champion there is Alberto Puello. Puello is good to go for May 13th. He's going to return to make an optional defense of his title, the first defense, against former world title challenger Rolly Romero. Rolly lost to Tank last year at 135. He got stopped in the 6th round. He's getting another opportunity here against Alberto Puello. And, you know, a lot of people interested in seeing how this one is going to go. Again, that's taking place May 13th. So I'm not going to give a prediction on that fight until the next Champions Report on the WBA. But a lot going on for, you know, that's big news for Puello in his first defense, and we'll see what he does with it. 147, welterweight. We have two champions there. The undefeated reigning super champion and unified champ is Errol Spence Jr. He holds 3 of the 4 belts at 147. Spence, we don't know what's going on with him next. He's supposed to be, according to a rumor in January, he's supposed to be moving up to 154 for his next fight to take on Keith One-Time Thurman. But that we haven't heard anything about that fight being finalized. We know that the fight, the undisputed title clash with Terrence Crawford, is something that everybody still wants to see, and Spence still wants. And I think the WBA for now will give him the right to hold on to that belt for the time being to see if that fight can be worked out in the second half of the year. But I don't know, and I hope by the next Champions Report we have more news on when the 147-pound title is going to be defended by Errol Spence Jr. or which direction it's going to go in, because by the next Champions Report, we are going to have a regular championship fight done with, and I'm moving into that now as we have an undefeated regular champion at 147, and that's Imantas Stanionis, who is going to make his first defense in a mandatory effort against undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr. Big time fight taking place on Saturday, April 29th on DAZN. Really can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be good. The winner is going to be in direct line to fight Errol Spence for the Unified Championship. If my pick on that fight, I'm going with Virgil Ortiz in this one, but I do think Stanionis is a solid underdog and a live one in this fight, and I really can't wait to see it on Saturday, April 29th on DAZN. So make sure you're checking that whole situation out. 154 super welterweight. The reigning and undisputed champion there is Jermell Charlo. I'm sorry. Charlo was supposed to fight on January 28th, making a WBO mandatory defense against mandatory challenger against mandatory challenger Tim Tszyu of Australia. That fight fell through because Charlo injured a wrist or broke his wrist, and they postponed it. But that fight, Charlo's going to be out a significant amount of time because they allowed Tim Tszyu to fight Tony Harrison for the interim title for the WBO. So now Charlo is sitting around waiting, and we don't know when his return is going to be. A lot of people think he's going to end up fighting the winner of Tszyu and Harrison because Tszyu is undefeated on the rise, and Tony Harrison, it would be a third fight between the two. Harrison handed Charlo his first and only defeat. But, we really don't know for sure, and that's the thing. We really don't know what Charlo is going to do for sure next. And, hopefully by the next Champions Report, especially with Tszyu and Harrison going to be decided, we know what Jermell Charlo is going to decide. Now, 160, middleweight. We have two champions there. The first is the super champion, Triple G Gennady Golovkin. And the second is the reigning regular champion, Erislandy Lara. Well, let's make this simple. Instead of talking about them individually, they have been ordered to fight each other. Purse bid is going to be held here in March, I think sometime next week, and then we're going to see if these two guys are going to collide next or make optional defenses in between. Now, I haven't heard anything concrete about one way or the other, and the reason why I think that is because we know Lara was pursuing a showdown with Danny Garcia at 155 pounds, and we know there's Triple G and Jaime Munguia were talking last year about fighting each other. Triple G gave up his IBF title instead of making a mandatory defense against Esquiva Falchao, but has not given up his WBA belt, knowing that Lara is his mandatory. Now, I personally hope that we see Triple G and Lara. I think these are two older guys that can still do it at a high level, and I think Triple G and Lara is going to be a good-ass fight if it happens, and by the next Champions Report, we should know one way or the other what's going to happen there. Next, at 168, we have two champions there. First is the reigning and undisputed champion and the WBA super champ, Canelo Alvarez, and the second is the undefeated regular champion, David Morrell Jr. Now, for Canelo, we know he's going to be returning Saturday, May 6th on DAZN in Mexico, and he's going to be defending his undisputed title, likely against his WBO interim champion and mandatory, John Ryder of the United Kingdom. They're finalizing that fight. It looks like it's going to be Ryder. Now, I'll give my prediction on that one before the next Champions Report on Canelo and John Ryder, or whomever it is, since that fight's going to be taking place the week after. Now, for David Morrell, the interim champion, he is set to defend against, he has not yet sealed who he's going to fight next. We know that Morrell is an option for most of the guys in the PBC, the Charlos, the Andrades, but nobody seems to be rushing to the front of the line to fight him. But I think David Benavidez, if he can't get some of those other guys in the second half of the year, or even Caleb Plant, might be interested in a Morrell clash. We'll see what goes down. Hopefully we hear something by the next Champions Report on Morrell. 175, light heavyweight. The reigning and undefeated champion there is Dimitri Bivol. Bivol, what we know is he's been in slight negotiations with Artur Beterbiev for the undisputed title clash in June between the two. But most people feel, myself included, that fight is not going to happen, as Bivol has a super showdown with Canelo Alvarez waiting for him in what would be September likely. So he's not going to want to risk losing that fight to Beterbiev, but also he's not going to want to fight that fight and then potentially have to cut weight down to 168 with only a couple months to do that before a showdown with Canelo were to happen. So I'm leaning towards the less likely. I personally believe Bivol is going to fight Joshua Buatsi next, and kind of stay busy. Even though Buatsi's an undefeated top 10 guy, I still believe Bivol will fight him, will beat him ahead of a showdown with Canelo. But we got to wait for that fight to get finalized. We haven't heard anything. So hopefully by the next Champions Report, we know what's going on there. 200 pounds, cruiserweight. The reigning and undefeated champion there is Arsen Goulamirian. Now, nothing concrete on Goulamirian and what he's doing next. We know that there's talks of a potential unification showdown between him and Lawrence Okoli maybe in the second half of the year, but nothing has come to fruition. We don't know if Goulamirian's going to fight before that. I'm hoping he does, but I'm also hoping by the next Champions Report at the end of April that we know what's going to happen. And finally, the heavyweight championship. We have two champs there. We have the reigning undefeated unified super champion, and that is Alexander Usyk, and we have the reigning regular champion, Daniel Dubois. Now, Alexander Usyk is supposed to be fighting Tyson Fury next. There's a working date of April 29th, but these two guys can't seem to finalize the fight. Part of the major reason is because, well, actually, from what I'm hearing, the main reason, maybe the only reason that fight hasn't been announced, is that the money that the Middle East was going to put into the fight and to host it is off the table, as now they're looking at the United Kingdom being the site for the fight. Now, Usyk is okay with that, but he wants a bigger piece of the pie if he's going on enemy territory. And I can't blame him for that. So if that's what Usyk wants, he should get that ahead of the undisputed showdown, because it's the fight everybody wants to see. Now, I'm skeptical that this fight is going to happen because of that. I'm hoping it does. But I do think there's a chance that Usyk tries to, consolidate the WBA belt by fighting Daniel Dubois, because his other two mandatories, Joe Joyce has a showdown here in April against Yao Zhang, so he's not available. And then also his other belt that he holds, Filip Hrgović, is seeking an opponent to fight for the interim title. So it looks like he might be busy. So Usyk should take advantage if the Fury fight doesn't happen and go after Daniel Dubois to consolidate belts. That would be a big deal. So I think there is potential in that. We'll see what goes down. We'll see what Usyk decides, and we will go from there. Now, that in Daniel Dubois, if that fight does not happen, there were rumors at the beginning of the year that Dubois would be fighting, potentially fighting Michael Hunter, who's the #1 contender in the WBA right now, and that would be a good one. So we'll see what goes down. We know Dubois is hunting for an opponent right now, and we also know that Usyk is trying to make that fight happen. Now, if Usyk and Fury happens, I think Fury, by the next Champions Report, if it happens on the April 29th, I think Tyson Fury is going to be our next WBA Super Champion. But we'll see what goes down, and we'll see what happens with all WBA belts from 122 pounds all the way to heavyweight. And that's it. That's what I got. That is the WBA Champions Report. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.